All right. So we'd like to welcome you to our second webinar presentation this year. It's entitled the 2017 Diversity Initiatives Across Neuropsychological Organizations. This webinar is presented by the Society of Clinical Neuropsychology's Ethnic Minority Affairs Subcommittee. It's also known as EMA. And this webinar is hosted by Michael Williams, who is an early career representative for EMA and a postdoctoral fellow at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, and myself, Ni Sun Suslo. I go by Sunny. I am the student representative and Ph.D. candidate at the University of Miami. Our webinar consists of 3 components. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves as the subcommittee and tell you about the objectives of this webinar. This will be followed by a 15-minute presentation of diversity initiatives for select neuropsychological organizations. We have representation from the Society for Clinical Neuropsychology, International Neuropsychological Society, Hispanic Neuropsychological Society, National Academy of Neuropsychology, and the American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology. The speakers will then be invited to answer questions at the very end of all of the presentations. Feel free to submit your questions anytime during the webinar by using the features on the right of your screen. Okay, so the EMA subcommittee, our goal is to promote the integration of diverse populations into the fabric of neuropsychological practice, research, teaching, and training. And our goal is to provide neuropsychologists with the knowledge and resources to better understand and serve the increasing diverse U.S. population. This webinar is aimed to update and further promote diversity initiatives across different neuropsychological associations. And today, each presenter will talk about their specific organization's unique missions and activities that are used to meet their diversity goals and initiatives, and to include what type of support they have from their organizations. It will include things like scholarships and awards. Okay, so first we'd like to introduce our very own Dr. Michelle Madore. She will be representing SEN. And so she is a clinical neuropsychologist at VA Palo Alto. She's also a co-investigator in the War-Related Illness and Injury Study, where she evaluates the cognitive functioning of veterans with PTSD, mild to moderate traumatic brain injury, or both. And she also collaborates as a consultant on a study using for rTMS as a treatment for individuals with history of mild to moderate TBI. She received her Ph.D. in clinical psychology from the University of Cincinnati, where she received specialized training in neuropsychology. She completed her predoctoral internship at VA Palo Alto, and she has completed her postdoc at VA Martinez and has done work in San Francisco VA Medical Center and VA PA. She is currently the chairperson of our subcommittee and also serves as the financial officer for the Asian American Psychological Association's divisions on Filipino Americans. So, Michelle?
We have Michelle's slides as well.
Do you see them?
No, I do not.
Okay, let me try this again. Do you see them now?
I see them. I'm not sure if people who are on the webinar can see them on the live site, as I don't see them on the live site as I have that open on another computer. So we do apologize while we get that set up. It looks like that they are opening up right now.
Okay, there it is. We apologize for that.
Perfect. Well, hi everyone. As Sunny so graciously introduced me, my name is Michelle and I'm the current subcommittee chair for EMA. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about the various projects that we have been working on at EMA, as well as the resources that are available through our website. So one of the first things that I'd like to talk about are the webinars, which those of you who are listening to right now is an example of. So we do have several webinars that we have recorded, and we are working to post them on the EMA website. The most recent webinar that we had was not that long ago. It was, I want to say, in April. The exact date is escaping me, but the title was Intersecting Diversities of the Clinical Neuropsychologist, A New Frontier. So that webinar link will be available hopefully in the coming month. Additionally, over the past 2 years, we had a couple of other webinars that will also be available on our website. One is cross-cultural neuropsychology, training and practice considerations, as well as a webinar looking at neuropsychological assessment of Spanish-speaking pediatric populations. So all of those things will be available for people to look at in the future. They are available now through YouTube, but we'd like to provide them all in a centralized location, making it easier for individuals to watch at a later date. Additionally, we would like everyone to know that we are always willing to hear different suggestions for other topics. While we might not be able to put everything together, we feel that as a committee it's important to try and stick to our mission and provide resources that individuals believe would be beneficial and helpful to them in their practice as well as in their training. One of the other things that we are looking to doing as a committee is provide a space for interaction. One is to interact with other ethnic minority neuropsychologists, which oftentimes in speaking with different trainees at different conferences and other neuropsychologists, we don't always get the opportunity to interact with individuals who've had similar or different experiences than ourselves. Additionally, we are interested in advancing knowledge relevant to issues to best serve ethnic minority individuals. So by providing trainings through our webinar, as an example of assessing Spanish-speaking individuals, so promoting that information and making sure that that readily is available. Sorry about that, 1 second. Another thing that we would like to make available to individuals as a committee is just having the space to acknowledge and advance knowledge of relevant issues for intersecting minority concerns. So even though this is the Ethnic Minority Affairs Committee, there are other variables that are important to us as individuals, as well as in the people that we are serving and practicing and assessing. So having a space to talk about those issues, change information, and collaborate is very important to us. Another thing that we do as a committee is develop conference programming at both the American Psychological Association conference and submit things to the International Neuropsychological Society. Most recently, in New Orleans, we hosted a interaction breakfast, so an opportunity for people to have free breakfast, network, and talk about different things that are going on. Additionally, at that time, we also launched our EMA Facebook page, which is available for people to join. Looking at more specific programs that we've had available at different conferences, at APA in Denver, we developed a symposium that was accepted and presented entitled Assessing the Diverse Individual, Best Practices when Working with Immigrant and/or Non-English Speaking Populations. And then in 2015 at INS, one of the talks that I had participated in was looking at unequal positions of power, initiating difficult dialogues in the trainee and supervisor relationship. So as the committee, we are both interested in not just variables related to the assessment of minority individuals in neuropsychology, but the development and support of minority neuropsychologists in training and in their career. The last thing that I wanted to mention before handing things off to our wonderful speakers who were so gracious to donate their time and participate in our webinar is the idea of mentorship. So EMA has had a mentorship program for several years, and we are working with the larger leadership of Society for Clinical Neuropsychology to integrate a more structured mentorship program. One of the things that we want to make sure to provide to individuals who would like to participate is the opportunity to discuss concerns that may be specific, not just to assessing individuals of different ethnic backgrounds, but as well as issues that may come up as a trainee when in training. So very similar to the presentation made at INS, looking at how to approach difficult dialogues with a supervisor or with a client, for example. So those are the things that we have currently available and have been working on over the last couple of years. We are always interested in hearing from you, and at the end of the webinar, we'll be providing some information on how to best get in touch with us. So if anyone has any questions at the end, I would be happy to answer them. So thank you so much for your time.
So thank you, Dr. Madore, for your presentation. Next, it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jennifer Manley, who will be representing International Neuropsychological Society, or INS. She is an associate professor at the Department of Neurology at Columbia University Medical Center. Her research focuses on health disparities in dementia and cultural and educational influences. And she has completed her graduate training in neuropsychology at the University of California, San Diego. After a clinical internship at Brown University, she completed a 2-year postdoctoral training at Columbia University in New York. She is currently the chair of INS Publications Committee and the director of the Continuing Education Program. So Dr. Manley, floor is yours now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me. And thanks for that introduction. There's just one correction to that, and maybe you said this, but I didn't, which is that I'm no longer the chair of the INS Continuing Education Committee. Raul Gonzalez from Miami is currently the CE chair. So what I want to talk about today is the International Neuropsychological Society. And if you go to the first slide, or the next slide, you'll see that the mission of the INS is an international one, to promote the international and interdisciplinary study of brain and behavior relationships. The International Neuropsychological Society, or INS, is also an organization that is not limited to neuropsychologists. So really, if you're interested in neuropsychology, even if you're not a neuropsychologist, if you're interested in behavioral relationships, that's who the INS is trying to attract. And also see that the emphasis of INS is really more specific than some of the other organizations you'll hear about today. The emphasis on science and education and the application of scientific knowledge. There's currently 4,700 members, and the INS has a long and interesting history that you can learn about more on the INS website. So, to the next slide, you'll see that really the centerpiece of the International Neuropsychological Society for most members is the meetings. There are 2 meetings a year, one in North America and one in non-North America. The mid-year meeting happens every July. And I listed here on the slides the next couple of meetings, or next several meetings throughout the coming years. And you'll see that there are some wonderful locations here for international work. And many of them, I happen to know that in Cape Town, there's going to be a big emphasis on cross-cultural work. This has been an emphasis of South African neuropsychologists for quite some time. So on the next slide, I'm listing some of the benefits of INS membership. Every member gets the GINS journal for free. Online, all of the issues, current and past, discounted registration at the meetings, a newsletter. There's some new interesting video interviews of leaders in neuropsychology. The one interviewing Muriel Lezak, really fun. And many of you saw at the last INS meeting, a lot of those interviews were taking place. I interviewed my mentor, Igor Grant, and so that's a big draw. And also there's some discounts on books, videos, journals, and other meetings, registration rate for other meetings. Now, going to the next slide, which is the main purpose of this webinar about diversity in INS, what I wanted to tell everyone is that INS, the emphasis is on international engagement. So there is a specific committee in INS that has the purpose of promoting communication and collaboration among neuropsychologists worldwide. And even though this is specific to international work and international issues, what I find is that some of the conversations, some of the issues that come up for the members of the International Liaison Committee are very similar to those that we encounter in our research and clinical work across cultures here in the United States. So I think that for people who are interested in a diverse neuropsychology, this international perspective is what the INS offers. I also wanted to let listeners know that there's something called the Charles Matthew International Neuropsychological Development Fund. The INS commits quite a lot of money, $7,500 a year, to support an effort to bring neuropsychology training, workshops, meetings, and webinars into low and middle income countries. And each person who's on this call can submit an idea to the ILC for those meetings. I also want to say that traditionally INS is a place where we can see each other as ethnic minority neuropsychologists, see each other and meet with each other in the cold of winter in February. The Board of Governors also strives for diverse leadership on its boards and committees. The INS also, I wanted to say, this isn't diversity per se in terms of the workforce in neuropsychology and the pipeline, but it is important that INS is often a place where we can hear up to date, cutting edge research on diverse populations. So there are often specific cross-cultural poster and paper sessions, depending on submissions. Raul makes sure that the continuing education program always includes sessions that focus on the impact of diversity on neuropsych research and practice. And then through the strategic planning of INS, a science work group was formed, and they decided that they want to start something called SIGs, or special interest groups, relevant to various areas of neuropsychological science. And I anticipate that there will be a disparities and diversity special interest group in INS get started. Thing to let everyone know, and I put the link in the slides. I'd be happy to provide the link to anyone, but if you go to the website, it's there. On the next slide is the Student Leadership Committee, which is very active, is a student-run committee with representation on the Board of Governors, which is really meant to foster student contributions. And you'll see when you go through the list of students, it's a very ethnically and internationally diverse group of students who are active and leaders on the SLC. They have a Facebook page and also a student listserv. And then on the last page, I'm listing scholarships and awards. There are a ton of them at INS, and if you submit an abstract, you'd be eligible for them. I list the Student Research Awards that are awarded by the SLC, the Rennick Award for Best Research for Graduate Students, CERMAC Award for Best Research in the area of memory or memory disorders. The Butters Award is for postdoctoral fellows. At INS, there are early career, mid-career, and lifetime achievement and distinguished career awards, as well as a mentoring award for someone whose mentoring or teaching activities have a profound impact on careers of students in the field of neuropsychology. So that's all I have. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Manley, for that presentation. So next, we're very pleased to have Dr. Monica Rivera Mindt join us. She will be representing the Hispanic Neuropsychological Society. Dr. Mindt is a board-certified neuropsychologist and a professor of psychology. She's also the director of clinical training at the Department of Psychology and Latino American and Latino Studies Institute at Fulton University. She completed her Ph.D. at the University of Nebraska, her internship at the University of Washington School of Medicine, and postdoc at University of California, San Diego. Her research program is funded by NIH and the Alzheimer's Association, and it dedicates to understand the intersection between health disparities, culture, and cognition, particularly among underrepresented minorities. So in addition to acting as the president-elect of the Hispanic Neuropsychological Society, Dr. Mindt serves as inaugural editor for the Culture and Gender in the Neuropsychology Department of the Clinical Neuropsychology Journal. And now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Mindt.
Hi there, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I want to thank EMA for putting this great program together and for inviting me to represent on behalf of HNS. It's really great to be here. EMA has a very near and dear place in my heart with myself serving on the committee many years ago. So yes, so I will be talking about HNS. As you'll see, our website is there on the very first slide if you'd like to go and get any more information. Next slide, please. So the first slide here provides an overview of our mission statement. So it's very dense, so I'm not going to go through it point for point, but in terms of the major highlights of our organization, HNS is unique in that it is the only freestanding neuropsychological society here in the United States, based in the United States at least, that's dedicated to cultural neuropsychology, particularly with Hispanic or Latino and Spanish-speaking populations. And as you'll note there, that we are committed to a range of initiatives within this broader umbrella, including training and research, and to provide high standards for the practice with this diverse and related populations. Some of the additional highlights of our mission statement include that as part of our basic mission, we encourage and facilitate dissemination of clinical and research information relevant to practice. We actively promote networking and collaboration among our members. And we work towards developing guidelines for competent neuropsychological practice with this population. And we are always happy to assist and consult in terms of development of training programs that are looking to be more culturally competent across treatment, assessment, and research. Importantly, we remain a non-affiliated society, so we are independent. We are just HNS. We're not we love to collaborate with other organizations, which is down further. We do remain an independent organization. And I highlighted this next aim in red, just to make sure everybody here, given the context of this discussion, could make sure to not forget this. And certainly we encourage and facilitate the development of emerging neuropsychologists via networking and mentoring, as well as providing research opportunities to improve our extant knowledge base. And speaking of knowledge bases, we've worked very hard, others on this committee, to establish a database of current and developing research, including tests, norms, and other resources. And before I move on, I also want to note that HNS is an organization that is dedicated to cultural neuropsychology issues, but open to everybody. So regardless of your, whatever your background is, whatever it is you do in neuropsychology or any related interest areas, you have a home here at HNS. We are an inclusive, welcoming organization. Next slide, please. So since I've started, there have been some strategic developments that have been going on, and I share those here with you first because I think it's important to highlight that one area that HNS is really working to expand is our liaison and outreach effort. So last year, we created this new liaison at large position, which I am the inaugural liaison at large, which is part of my, why I'm here today with you. So the aim of this position is to serve as an initial and consistent point of contact between HNS and other national and regional neuropsychology organizations for a number of reasons. One, ultimately to establish better partnerships and serve as a resource to other organizations in terms of issues related to cultural neuropsychology. We have a lot of expertise to share, and we are eager to share it with other organizations. And you'll see there, our aims are to, through this position and these outreach efforts, to advance scientific understanding of sociocultural and linguistic issues as they relate to neuropsychological assessment and intervention, to promote the dissemination of related research for empirically based practice, and of course to advance education and training opportunities for students, trainees, and neuropsychologists interested in developing their cultural competence in this area. Next slide, please. In terms of our achievements to date with this new position, so again, last year in 2016, this position was created. And at that time, I reached out across organizations, including all of those represented here, and invited collaboration between organizations. And I'm so happy to report that we received such a positive response from all the organizations represented here, including, Division 40 Society for Clinical Neuropsychology, INS, AECN, and NAN and others. And so that has just been wonderful. And a real highlight of last year was that through these outreach efforts, we developed a partnership with the American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology. In particular, their wonderful 2050 relevance committee and effort, which I know Anita Sim will talk about later, but this has created a whole series of collaborations that I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. But in terms of our achievements for this year, in terms of our liaisoning with other organizations, in 2017, HNS was invited to attend the Clinical Neuropsychology Synarchy, or CNS, which the meeting was held at INS this February. And during that meeting, HNS, on behalf of HNS, I advocated for us to join CNS as full members, since we are an independent organization with dues-paying members dedicated to neuropsychology. And I'm pleased to announce here with all of you that our petition was indeed approved, and now HNS is a member of CNS, similar to INS and the other organizations represented here today. And of course, another wonderful part of our outreach is this webinar today. And in June, we will be holding our HNS conference, which is in large part due to our wonderful partnership with ACN and the 2050 Relevance Committee. And we will also be in partnership with SCN's ANST committee, and HNS will also be hosting the Cultural Neuropsychology Summit, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. Please forward. So in terms of HNS's mentoring committee, you'll see there that you can contact the chair, Dr. Gretchen Barrios-Cierro, if you're interested in getting connected with our mentoring committee. Next slide, please. And I'd like to share a little bit about what the committee does. So it's dedicated to education and research. In fact, this committee has launched a wonderful mentoring program, and I note there the dates of the initial pilot. And as of the last numbers that I had, it included 28 mentees and mentors who were paired up. And essentially the goal of this wonderful initiative was to increase competence in and promote cultural neuropsychology for the mentees, and really to provide a resource for them. And I note that this is an ongoing effort. I note the pilot program period, but this is an ongoing effort, and all trainees and neuropsychologists who are listening here today are welcome to join us. We will in the future also be sharing information coming from mid-year and annual satisfaction and outcome surveys that we are looking forward to sharing with our membership and others to see how it's working and how we can do better. Next slide, please. Other education research initiatives that HNS is engaged in through this committee include an HNS $500 student award. We are currently working on a pediatric bilingual guidelines paper. There's been some work also on a cultural competency guidelines paper, and importantly, we are also working with others to try to develop a database with this committee, particularly at the postdoc level, to provide support for those training at this level. In addition, this committee is working on developing Spanish language brochures, which will be a great contribution. And in the further future, looking towards developing a platform to provide web-based consultation. Okay. Just to give you an idea of some of the other activities that this committee is so wonderful at coordinating on behalf of HNS include networking social hours at different meetings. So the last one occurred one occurred last year at INS, and they occur at all the different organizations. So they're not just at one or the other. They've occurred at INS, NAN, and others. And I highlight here in red on this slide that we will be having a social networking event at our conference next month, which is a major initiative that I'm also very excited to share with you, as it has significant implications to diversity and diversity training for our field. Go to the next slide, please. But before I get to that, I would like to talk about our strategic priorities moving forward. So our board of directors is currently working on a strategic plan to move HNS forward into, into the next decade of our work. And here I've summarized for you the 5 priorities that the board has identified. One is an emphasis on science and culture. The second is on empirically supported practice as it relates to cultural neuropsychology. The third is policy and engagement. The fourth has to do with knowledge and training. And the fifth has to do with organizational effectiveness to help HNS run more efficiently, more smoothly, and to strengthen our interorganizational partnerships. Next. And now I'd like to talk about our upcoming conference. So you see, I have the save the date slide here with the URL if you are interested in checking out the information for our quickly coming up conference. So this is HNS's 2017 conference, and the theme is Cultural Neuropsychology 360. And actually, can you go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So, so here's the date, just in case people were wondering while I talk a little bit about it. So, essentially, the aim of having this Cultural Neuropsychology 360 aim is to take a look and examine the field from a 360 perspective across research, practice, training, and policy, as all of those issues relate to clinical or cultural neuropsychology, with a number of experts in the field. Can you go to the next slide as well? And as you see there, it's going to be this June 7th, which is just in a couple of weeks. It will be a pre-conference to the ACN conference. And again, we're doing this in partnership with ACN, and the social, which I'll talk about in a moment, the following day, is in partnership with SCN's ANST committee. So in terms of the first day of our HNS programming, we'll be hosting our conference in a morning session, which will offer a little over 3 CE credits and offer multiple plenary sessions. We're very excited to have the American Psychological Association president, Tony Puente, who's also a former HNS president, to be one of our plenary speakers. He'll be there talking about policy. He'll be doing a talk on Policy 101. We'll also have Drs. Desiree Bird, Dr. Celian Ray Casserly, and Clemente Vega doing talks as well in the different areas that I mentioned. And in the afternoon, HNS is really excited to be hosting the Cultural Neuropsychology Summit, which is free for all to attend. And in this summit, we'll hear from experts who, along with attendees, are going to generate recommendations related to practice, training, research, and public policy for the field more broadly, taking really an even more broad and future-oriented perspective on what are the current gaps in cultural neuropsychology within our field and how to move us forward. And I've listed there at the bottom of this slide the organizers, which are Bob Heaton, Jen Manley, who's here today, and also myself. Next slide. On the second day of this, or on the next day, on June 8th, we'll be partnering with AACN's Relevance 2050 committee to provide 3 sessions of programming at the actual AACN conference to focus on issues around cultural neuropsychology and training. In fact, one of our morning sessions will be something called Cultural Neuropsychology 101, a toolkit for neuropsychologists, and that's, I think, something I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to be a great resource for students and neuropsychologists at all levels. And that night on the 8th, we're going to be having a networking social event, which includes dinner and dancing, and it's going to be there in Boston and in the Cambridge Central Square, and the food's going to be good. So we invite everybody here to join us. Next slide. And I hope that you'll join us in all kinds of ways in terms of our mentoring activities or in any way that we can be of service to you. So I hope that we can all stay connected. I've included our website here, and you can also reach us on Twitter and Facebook, and I've also included my Twitter and Facebook handles as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mindt, for that presentation. You have another slide with some
Oh, yeah.
pictures.
Gracias.
So originally next we have Dr. Amir Poreh, who would be representing the National Academy of Neuropsychology. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us today, but he did provide very nice slides for us to see today. So I'm going to take a few seconds to go through those slides, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so next I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Anita Sim and Mr. Octavio Santos. They will be co-presenting diversity initiatives for the American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology. Dr. Sim is a staff neuropsychology at the Minneapolis VA. She is the primary neuropsychologist within the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. And this is where she provides neuropsychological assessment services to both veterans and active duty service members on the inpatient and outpatient services. She's also actively involved in training and supervision of interns and residents in neuropsychology and rehabilitation psychology. Dr. Sim completed her Ph.D. at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and she was an intern at University of Oklahoma Health Science Center prior to completing her, then she did her postdoctoral residency at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. She's currently the chair of the Relevance 2050 Initiative Committee for AACN. And I'm going to also introduce Mr. Octavio Santos. He completed his bachelor's degree in psychology at the Pontificia Universidad in Bogota, Colombia. And that's where he gained further research and clinical experience in neuropsychology at Columbia University Medical Center in New York City. He started his PhD in clinical psychology at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. He's currently finishing up his internship at the South Texas VA in San Antonio and has recently accepted his clinical neuropsychology fellowship at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. So he's heavily involved in diversity issues and has worked with diversity, ethics, grants, mentorship, and student committees in APA, APAGs, and all of the neuropsychological organizations that we're presenting today. His research interests include cross-cultural assessment, test development, and cognitive rehabilitation. So being both bilingual and bicultural, he really strives to develop and provide culturally responsive neuropsychological services to Hispanics and other underserved populations. Okay.
Thank you to Sunny and Michael and Michelle for the invitation. So I want to take some time to kind of review the Relevance 2050 initiative and committee that you've heard about. It started off as an initiative, so many of you may have heard of it as a Relevance initiative, and it was developed actually, I think, in 2015 under current AACN president, Dr. Karen Postal. For anyone who has had the opportunity to meet Dr. Postal, you'll know that she's a very dedicated and advocate for multicultural and diversity issues, and an all-around very inspirational leader. And so she, I think, was really the impetus behind this initiative and AACN getting behind it as an organization with the goals of supporting research and development of multilingual and multicultural assessment methods. Secondly is to really try to tackle the pipeline issues, increase the number of neuropsychologists from underrepresented groups. And then thirdly is to develop scalable training strategies. Next slide, please. So what has AACN done to date? A lot has changed in the last 3 years. So around 2014, I think the AACN board of directors and leadership kind of felt that there was a lack of diversity and diversity expertise on the board of directors. And so they decided to change their bylaws to change the nominations procedure and elections for the board of directors into a slate system. So it used to be the case where people just self-nominated or nominated others for the board of directors, and that group was sent to the academy for voting, but they realized they kind of wanted to make some tweaks to that. So they changed it to a slate system where, depending on what the board of directors felt was needed competencies within the board of directors members, they would request a slate. So whether that is, most recently, I think felt like we wanted more pediatric membership, or somebody who specializes in sort of social media or public policy and so forth. But the diversity slate was the first slate that was offered. And again, that required a bylaws change where essentially the intent was to maintain diversity or representation from individuals with expertise in diversity within the AACN board of directors. And I think one of the things that's unique about the bylaws changed is the slate system is to be implemented so that there's always at least one member of the AACN board representing the diversity slate. Next slide, please. So I was fortunate enough to run on the diversity slate and get elected. And so my term is from 2016 to 2021. But again, sort of the really neat thing is that even when my term ends, the diversity slate would be instituted again, such that there is always at least one member. I would love to see more, but I'm working on that. So what started off as the Relevance Initiative, once I joined the board, Karen asked me if I'd be willing to chair the committee. And so I agreed, and that's sort of when the initiatives was changed into an actual standing AACN committee. So again, some really neat bylaws changes that were instituted was the Relevance 2050 committee is the only AACN committee that now allows non-AACN members to join Relevance. This was Dr. Postal's sort of excellent vision and recognition that there could be many, many people who have diversity interests and expertise that just are not members of AACN for one reason or another, but would love to partner with us. And so that includes students, professionals, anyone. There's the opportunity to join the committee. And then again, sort of wanting to infuse diversity interests into all the other activities that AACN does, the Relevance 2050 committee has a liaison to all the other AACN committees. So the Board Certification Promotion Committee, publications, and so forth. So the Relevance 2050 committee is very large, the largest committee within AACN, and I chair that, but then there's several subcommittees that are chaired by wonderful people and experts within cross-cultural neuropsychology. So Drs. Desiree Bird and Veronica Burton chair the Tools and Norms Subcommittee. Dr. Salinas is chairing the Peer Consultation Network Subcommittee, and they're working on kind of providing consultation services where people can phone in or write in questions about, you know, anything as basic as what norm should I use to who do you know in the state of Arizona that is bilingual, so forth. She's also heading up in collaboration with HNS a survey to postdoctoral programs to see, you know, what are postdoctoral programs doing at this time in terms of their diversity training, because we can't really know how to improve it unless we know what's actually occurring. You'll hear from Octavio and Christina regarding the Student Pipeline Subcommittee activities. Dr. Clemente Vega chairs the Practicing Neuropsychologist Pipeline, recognizing that there are even career or late career neuropsychologists who are non-boarded but are in a mentorship or training director role. Dr. Chris Morrison, who's president-elect of AACN, chairs the Diversity Award for Posters, which I'll talk about a little bit in more detail. Dr. Tony Stringer chairs the Publications Subcommittee, and then Dr. June Paltzer, the annual conference. So for the conference, the AACN sponsors 12 scholarships total to attend the conference, and 6 of those are designated for individuals of diverse or underrepresented backgrounds, and that's a $500 award to help offset costs to the conference. Relevance 2050 Now is sort of guaranteed a 3-hour workshop at the conference that we are allowed to sort of fill with whatever talk and speaker that we'd want. So we're excited about that development. This year, as Dr. Rivera Mindt spoke about, we are really thrilled to be partnering with the HNS pre-conference. And then new for next year's AACN conference, we have created an award for the best poster on a diversity-related topic. So for those who are submitting posters to AACN Chicago, you should see an option to opt whether you want your abstract and poster be considered for this award. So AACN, one of the main focus points for this organization is to promote board certification. And in that regard, we've worked very closely with the Board Certification Promotion Committee with a lot of crossover members. Couple of exciting things is one, again, in collaboration with the Board Certification Promotion Committee, there was a grant that was received from the ABAP Foundation to offset the credentialing fee for individuals from underrepresented groups. And then we have just completed a submission to help recruit a mid to late career neuropsychologist for board certification. Annual conference, hopefully most of you have seen that Dr. David Shretlin is our inaugural 2050 workshop speaker, and he'll be talking about global diversity and neuropsychological assessment. We have speakers already lined up for 2018 and 2019, including some folks here on our panel today. So we're excited about those developments as well. So stay tuned for that. So discuss the survey that is almost wrapped up, and then the peer consultation group publications. So one project that is starting to get off the ground is recognizing that a lot of cross-cultural norms are kind of all over the place, and there isn't sort of a single resource like the old Mitrashina norms, where you can go to a single book and obtain all those norms. So we're trying to collate them all into a single project. So that's kind of in its nascent stages. And then Dr. Tony Stringer, as the publications chair, was offered a book proposal deal. And so again, we're kind of in the beginning stages of getting a book project together that will involve a lot of relevance, as well as the ABPP-CN Diversity Committee members. And we will be excited, I think, to announce a grant in the near future. So for folks who do research in diverse normative populations, stay tuned for that, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're switching to Mr. Octavio Santos.
Thank you very much for having me. As the co-chair of the AACN Relevance 2050 Student Pipelines, about our aims, structure, accomplishments, and future initiatives. But before doing that, I would like to provide you with some context to better understand what we do. In 1993, APA drafted a resolution on ethnic minority recruitment and retention to make psychologists aware this population will become a pluralistic society, and to outline APA's commitment to placing a high priority on issues related to the ethnic minorities. Despite APAs and other efforts, there is a current and projected underrepresentation of ethnic minority faculty, practitioners, and researchers in both psychology and neuropsychology, impacting the preparation of the students and trainees to function in society and to provide appropriate services. Next slide. So in an effort to address 2050 proposed the creation of the Student Pipeline Subcommittee. After its creation, the SPS decided to these two specific aims through the proposal and execution of intra and interorganizational initiatives. I would like to note that underrepresented students and trainees. I'm referring to individuals defined in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, age, disability, religion, orientation, immigration status, first-generation college students, and or people with financially disadvantaged backgrounds or circumstances. Slide. Currently, the SPS is composed of 2 co-chairs and across all training levels and also early career neuropsychologists, with a representative for each subgroup. SPS, which I will be reviewing shortly, are overseen by the Relevance 2050 chair, Dr. Anita Sim. I would like to briefly summarize the SPS. In less than 2 years, the SPS grew exponentially, and to the best of our knowledge, has become the largest and most diverse committee among the organizations. In order to promote early education on board certification, we did a free webinar entitled Board Certification via ABPP-CN 101 with Dr. Salinas Biliauskas, Pamela Dean, and Jason Sobel. This webinar has been incredibly popular, reaching over 1,000 in less than 1 year. Regarding future initiatives, we will have frequent spotlights featuring diverse trainees, students, and psychologists for them to share experiences and advice with 2 fellow AACN members and 50 members. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to join our AACN workshop entitled Diversifying Neuropsychology to Board Certification, scheduled on Saturday, June 10th. During this workshop, we will talk more about former and future SPS initiatives. We will provide resources for students, trainees, mentors, supervisors, and those interested in working with diverse, along with potential solutions to address the broken student pipeline. Finally, we're planning a webinar series focused on culturally responsive supervision certification. We're also collaborating with AACN, the Student Affairs Committee, on an upcoming mentorship program. And the mentorship program will be announced later this year. So stay tuned as we look forward to your participation. We're hopeful by joining our efforts, we will be able to create further educational and training opportunities, particularly for underrepresented individuals, diverse neuropsychology workforce that is better equipped to address the challenges of providing services in the context of the changing US demographics. Happy to hear from you, so please send us questions and or ideas for collaboration to our email address. On behalf of the SPS, I would like to the ACN Board of Directors, the Relevance 2050 Initiative, the Board Certification Promotion Committee, and the Student Affairs Committee of Clinical Neuropsychology, the Society for Clinical Neuropsychologists, Ethnic Minority Affairs, and the Hispanic Neuropsychological Society for their support.
Thank you to all of our speakers for your excellent presentations. It looks like we don't have any specific questions at this time on the YouTube page. So I'd like to invite the different presenters to share how students can get involved in your organization and take part in some of these wonderful activities and outreach programs that you all have established.
Hi there, this is Monica representing HNS, and I would just note that on our slides I provided the email of our chair of the mentoring committee, Dr. Gretchen Burrio-Ciervo, and she would be a perfect person to reach out to get connected. And of course, our Facebook, handle and Twitter feed are also there if you want to connect that way.
And this is Jennifer Manley. On my slides for the INS, I provided the link for the liaison committee of INS. On that website, you'll find a ton of information about their activities and people to contact. And students and early career people are very welcome to contact current committee chairs and members of the board to ask how they might be able to get involved in leadership in the organization. Often committees have particular slates for student members so that the entire membership might be represented in those committees. And folks are I'm very happy to receive emails from people with any other specific questions about INS.
This is Anita from AACN. As Octavio talked about, the student pipeline subcommittee is one opportunity. I'm sure he would welcome you contacting him for any sort of task force or special project that they could use more students on. AACN also has a student affairs committee, which is not under the relevance umbrella, but that's also an opportunity for students to get involved. Each year there is one slot open for a student member to serve or kind of join in on the AACN Board of Directors meetings, which are twice a year. And this year, for those of you who know Joyce Tam, she's our new student member. And that represents a really unique opportunity for trainees to kind of see an organization, board of directors at work. And we actually very much welcome the student members' input. And so that's another opportunity that folks can look out for.
And this is Michelle representing SCN EMA. And on our specific committee, we do have a student representative slot that is open on a periodic basis, currently filled by Sunny. And many of the SCN committees also have both student member slates and or early career slates available. In general, applications are due in the spring around May time, so we just finished our application cycle for some of the committees, but those announcements are regularly posted via the different listservs as well as on the website. All of the subcommittee and committee chairpersons are available via email to answer any more specific questions about being involved. Additionally, we recently instituted doing a volunteer position where an individual can apply to volunteer to participate on a committee for 1 year so that you can get your feet wet on seeing what it's like to be involved in leadership before committing to a 3-year term on a committee. And there are a variety of committees in SCN that have that opportunity.
Awesome.
You guys can contact the SPS at the email address that I provided. We will be happy to tell you about the opportunities that we currently have. We are going to be recruiting for new members in the future. You connected to the upcoming mentorship program by AACN, the Student Affairs Committee. Thank you.
Awesome.
Before we proceed, this is Monica Rivera from HNS again, I should also mention that we do have a standing student position that is a full voting board member position on our board of directors. And our elections are at the end of the year.
That's great. A lot of opportunities. We're very appreciative to all of our speakers for volunteering their time to make this webinar possible. This was definitely excellent information and helpful. We also like to thank all of our viewers for joining us today and taking the effort to move our field forward. We have to appreciate diversity and definitely continue to think about this on a daily basis, whether we're conducting research or working with our patients or doing community work. It's definitely important. We hope that everyone has found this information useful, and feel free to connect with us via Facebook and subscribe to our new YouTube channel. And for more information about EMA, please visit our website. The links are located on this slide. And also, if you could take a moment to give us some feedback using our email address listed on this slide. Your input is very important to help us improve future webinars and also identify relevant topics to better meet the needs of those in our field. Again, thank you all for attending and have a good rest of the day.